The Justice League exists in both good and evil iterations almost equally. In the DC world, the Justice League is the most powerful example of morality because it is comprised of some of the most powerful heroes on Earth. Imagining what it would be like if it were bad is entertaining when something is genuinely so good. Since the dawn of the Golden Age, one of the recurring motifs in comics has been the exploration of parallel worlds. The Justice League has appeared in an infinite number of these. There have been iterations of the Justice League that have been corrupted throughout history, and they have ranged from being completely non-threatening to a gang that you definitely don't want to run into in a deserted alleyway. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the more dark and violent iterations of perhaps one of our favorite group of superheroes, the Justice League. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Justice Society of America. Superheroes from the Justice Society of America fought in World War II. They were formed years after the war, contently yielding to groups like the Justice League and Teen Titans, while putting more of an emphasis on preserving and fostering the superhero heritage. The JSA was the first significant superhero team to emerge when they made their debut in All-Star Comics in 1940. The Golden Age may have some dated elements, but it deserves praise for giving the world access to some people who went on to become famous. Heroes including Dr. Fate, Hourman, Sandman, Jay Garrick's Flash, the Atom, Spectre, Alan Scott's Green Lantern, and Hawkman were part of the first Justice Society team. The JSA was redesigned with rotating members when the Justice League was formed in order to set itself apart from DC's most well-known team. While the Justice League is regularly updated for contemporary audiences, the Justice Society flourishes in period pieces. The team's members may set them apart from one another, but their experiences are also influenced by the eras in which they live. When Dr. Fate, Jay Garrick, Hawkman, and other members of the classic roster are removed from the current DC Universe timeline, they acquire a certain charm. This characteristic not only sets them unique from the League, but also from superhero teams from other publishers. As the alternate Earth's equivalent of the Justice League, the Justice Society has been limited to those worlds over the years. JSA typically does best with smaller scale stories involving the nation they have vowed to defend. They are less flamboyant than the Justice League, which is one of their draws. As the Justice League continues to protect and defend, the first generation of superheroes leaves a modest legacy for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and others to follow decades from now. Justice League Dark. The Justice League must be enlisted when alien warriors attack New York City, but what happens when a more paranormal threat arises? How do Superman and Wonder Woman take on armies of immortal sorcerers or undead? That was the question presented when the Enchantress defeated the Justice League, prompting them to form a new, darker team, Justice League Dark. The show debuted the titular heroes who were made up of mystical DC figures such as John Constantine, Deadman, Madame Xanadu, Shade the Changing Man, and Zatanna. They all collaborated to look into the strange and supernatural creatures and magical beings that existed outside of the usual. When Madame Xanadu envisioned a horrific future that only they could avert, she put the team together. When the Enchantress went on a rampage after becoming separated from her host June Moon, they assembled to stop her. In their final showdown with Enchantress, which was won when Constantine rebonded her to June Moon, the entire team came together for the first time. He sacrificed her life to save the lives of hundreds of others. Then, when Xanadu attempted to unite them, they all rejected her angrily. Later, Constantine, Shade, Deadman, and Zatanna returned to Xanadu after starting to experience terrifying nightmares. They became the Justice League Dark after she informed them that these visions represented what would happen if they failed to form a team. Although they are a group of superheroes, Justice League Dark also makes most people shudder. A group of magicians, monsters, and the undead is unquestionably one of the spookier iterations of the Justice League. Be thankful that they're on our side.
That'll be enough of that.
Crime Syndicate. The Crime Syndicate, who live on Earth 3, are the Justice League's villainous counterparts. Deathstorm, Atomica, Grid, The Martian, Johnny Quick, The Outsider, Power Ring, Owlman, Superwoman, Sea King, and Ultraman made up their original roster. Prior to the whole syndicate, the Outsider was dispatched as an emissary to Prime Earth. To make room for his masters, he was in charge of creating the secret society of supervillains. The Outsider used Pandora's box to create a portal that allowed the Crime Syndicate to pass through. They were traveling with an unidentified classified prisoner, and Sea King did not survive the trip. They then proclaimed ownership over this planet. In the end, practically every member of the team perished. Owlman gained the freedom to rule his criminal empire, Jessica Cruz was chosen as the Ring of Volthum's new host and became the next holder of the Power Ring, and Ultraman and Superwoman were imprisoned by Argus. After the Darkseid War, the group was revived. They learned about Perpetua after the Doom symbol appeared in the sky and attempted to get her attention by starting a mass killing on their home planet. Their strategy worked as Lex Luthor visited their homeworld and invited them to meet with her. She consented to the CSA serving her, giving them the charge of guiding the Earth-3 humans whom she had transformed into apex predators. For trying to reject the idea of the CSA cooperating with her because he perceived her as a major evil threat, Johnny Quick was vaporized by Perpetua. When they left, Lex commented that despite having seen many of them perish and even their homeworld destroyed, they were now standing in front of him alive. She responded by saying that the multiverse fixes itself and puts everything back in the order it perceives to be proper. However, the crime syndicate members had forgotten about their deaths. Justice Lords. The Justice Lords were the Justice League in an alternate universe. They initially debuted in the episode A Better World of the 2003 Justice League animated TV series. President Lex Luthor's unfair killing of the Flash in a universe parallel to the Justice League's universe led that universe's superhero team to turn rogue. Despite referring to themselves as the Justice Lords rather than the Justice League from the beginning, this team still included Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, Jon Stewart, and J'onn J'onzz. It appears that both teams had a similar past before Luthor was elected president. The Justice Lords reassembled into a planet-wide ruling body after Superman assassinated President Luthor, and they immediately started working on a plan to defend mankind from itself. The Lords decided when to hold elections. Free expression was all but extinct, and any disturbance of the peace resulted in quick imprisonment. Superman's heat vision had lobotomized many of the rogues that the Lords had previously encountered to render them docile and harmless. The Joker, who had turned harmless following the procedure himself, was in charge of the rogues' placement in an updated and appealing Arkham Asylum. The Justice Lord's attire experienced significant revisions during this time as well. Batman created an interdimensional transit device that gave him access to alternate dimensions once Earth was at peace. He initially came across the Justice League universe when he and the Lord's equivalents were still engaged in combat with Lex Luthor, the Flash was still alive, and order had not been imposed via oppressive tyranny. The Justice Lords fooled and captured the League to impose their brand of order on the League's reality. They then imprisoned the League in their world while the Lords replaced them, with the exception of Batman, who stayed behind to maintain order. Shortly after being captured, the Justice League managed to escape, and with Batman's assistance, who had come to understand the impropriety of his and the Lords' actions, returned to their homeworld. The 5 Justice Lords were robbed of their abilities and sent back to their home universe after working with Luthor to build an energy disruptor. Injustice Gods Among Us, a video game released in 2013, featured a brand new evil Justice League. The story takes place in a parallel universe where Superman disregarded his rule against killing for revenge after the Joker led him to kill Lois Lane and wreck Metropolis. A tyrannical new world order was established after Superman and the Justice League crossed that line. A part of Batman's plan to stop him was to draw the Justice League into the world of injustice. An outstanding fighting game, it served as a prelude to a memorable comic book series showing powerful heroes stooping to the ranks of criminals. There is something unsettling about watching Superman transition from the greatest hero in the world to its most notorious villain. This is not a result of some fanciful universe of evil, but rather as a result of him being pushed too far. The comic book's narrative is divided into the 6 years leading up to the video game Injustice Gods Among Us. While Year 0, which occurs before Year 1, relates to the tale of how and where the Joker acquired the idea to drive Superman insane, Year 1 to Year 4 depicts the struggle of Superman's totalitarian government against a succession of enemies. In Year 0, the Joker uses a sinister magical amulet to possess and harm Justice Society members. Superman is possessed, but once Batman communicates with him, he frees himself. This is seen by the Joker as a challenge to deceive Superman, which sets off the circumstances that results in Lois's passing. It acts as the direct lead-up to the game following the overthrow of Superman's totalitarian rule in Year 5.
Once I get all of the Super Friends out of the way, I'll have no resistance to my takeover of the world.
Super enemies. The super enemies are a form of the Justice League that is undoubtedly bad, but is probably not the scariest of the scary Justice Leagues. There had to be some villains called the super enemies since the legendary DC television program from the 1970s had the name Super Friends. Mount Vesuvius was on the verge of erupting at the beginning of the 1979 episode Universe of Evil. In the regular universe, Superman is trying to prevent the volcano from erupting, whilst in a mysterious alternate universe, Superman's evil incarnation is attempting to force the volcano to explode. The eruption takes place, which forces the two Superman to switch universes. Superman wound up in an alternate universe in which the Super Friends opposites reach the super enemies are evil. Meanwhile, an evil version of Superman goes on a crime spree and has to deal with the Super Friends in their own universe. The good Superman receives assistance from a professor at Metropolis University who provides him with an antimatter flask that would aid him in returning to his own universe if he finds the precise location where he descended into the super enemies universe equipped with kryptonite weapons while running from both the super enemies and the authorities. When Superman arrives at the location, he opens the flask, switching places once more with his evil incarnation and sending them back to their respective universes. The super enemies were the best equivalent of the Super Friends TV series had to the crime Syndicate from Earth 3 before the crisis. In Justice League, the intergalactic conqueror Agamemnon, who had set out to conquer Earth and its heroes, the Justice League, founded the group and recruited its members. Agamemnon used his abilities to switch the villains' minds with those of the JLA, and even though they were eventually pushed out of their bodies, they had learned everything they need to know about their rivals on the inside and out. As a result, the JLA decided to use the H-dial to change into completely different heroes. Then, by channeling his power ring into the Absorbiscon, Green Lantern was able to completely erase from the memories of the Injustice Leagues any memory of the JLA's covert identities. Later on, a unified group with the title emerged. Major Disaster was in charge of this group, which also included Big Sur, Multi-Man, Cluemaster, and Clock King. They were largely ineffective, frequently ran into the Justice League International, and finally sort of got back together before looking for work with Maxwell Lord. As a result, they were chosen to make up the core of the temporary Justice League Antarctica. Lex Luthor, the Joker, and Cheetah recently organized a larger and more powerful Injustice League during the wedding of Green Arrow and Black Canary, with the intention of rebuilding an America where crime and corruption are accepted as regular parts of life. However, they must eliminate the Justice League of America for their scheme to succeed. Tess Mercer sent out a team of meteor freaks named Injustice League to hunt down Doomsday in Smallville Season 8, Episode 21, titled Injustice. The Black Creek facility was shut down when Mercer took over Luthor Corp, allowing many metahumans to flee and start her search for a group of Earth heroes. Young Justice Season 1, Episode 14 is titled Revelation, and it introduces the members of the Injustice League: Atomic Skull, Count Vertigo, Black Adam, Joker, Poison Ivy, and Wutan. Extreme Justice. There were three distinct Justice League teams in the middle of the 1990s, each led by a different person. They split up because they couldn't agree on how to run the league. Why was this feasible and how? Using the tried and true logic of comic books. One of these teams was Extreme Justice, which had a 19-issue run that began in November 1994 and ended in May 1996. This group was commanded by Captain Atom, who disapproved of Wonder Woman's plan to collaborate with the UN and believed that the organization was moving too slowly to allow the heroes to assist those in need. As a result, he and his group decided to take a different approach. Act First, Think Later was a character trait of Captain Atom during this period of comics. He had no love for the government that had misled and conned him into becoming a hero after his solo run and a stint as the leader of the Justice League of Europe. Instead, he achieved heroism in his own way. Over the course of the 19 issues of Extreme Justice, Atom and his team would be able to save the Earth from a number of catastrophic events with the help of the team of Blue Beetle 2, Booster Gold, the Amazing Man, Maxima, Firestorm, and eventually the Wonder Twins. Captain Atom spends a significant portion of Extreme Justice trying to reconcile who he is today with how he behaved when under the government's control. Naturally, we have to add another obstacle to the main character's inevitable journey toward self-actualization when they are experiencing an identity crisis. The major antagonist of the plot in this instance, the most recent Monarch, reveals that he is actually Nathaniel Adams and that Captain Atom, whom everyone has come to know since his accident in the 1960s, is just a clone of the actual man. Justice League Task Force. Justice League International and Justice League Europe members made up the secret strike team known as the Justice League Task Force. Justice League International members were asked to join a special covert operation by UN Representative Hannibal Martin. The nature of the mission necessitated stealth and caution, even though the team's UN charter still authorized it. Hannibal then chose the Martian Manhunter to lead the specially assembled task force, and he was given the freedom to select his own subordinates. Gypsy and the Flash, two former JLA members, were a part of the original team. Heroes like Maxima, the Ray, Nightwing, Triumph, and many others participated in later missions. The JLTF's membership initially changed depending on the demands of a given mission, with Gypsy, Despero/Elron, Triumph, the Ray, and Mystic eventually stabilizing the roster under the Martian Manhunter. This new Justice League team's first task is to stop a group of rebels led by Rafael Sierra from killing Sanobel President Enrique Ramos. They turn to Count Jeremy Glass, who creates a super laser that can deliver death from great distances, but the rebels are unwilling to use it. Hannibal Martin gives Nightwing the task of stopping Sierra by himself. The task force is battling the rebels in the meantime. Ramos rushes to turn off the super laser during a later struggle at the palace, putting himself in Nightwing's sight. However, the superhero was unable to use his gun due to a moral dilemma. Ramos eventually destroys the device, but only at the price of his own life. Rafael Sierra is elected president at the conclusion of the story, and Martin admits that he chose Nightwing because he was aware that the hero would never kill. He wanted Nightwing to fall short. In a fit of rage, Nightwing and Flash left the group. Justice League 3000. The Justice League 3000 is a clone team that was created using the DNA of the original members in the 31st century. The universe in the 31st century is a disaster. The Five, a group of godlike super beings, crippled a once proud star-spanning civilization by destroying its capacity to accomplish or create specific things. Cadmus World, a possible rival who knew there was no longer any power that could oppose these super beings, escaped from the Five. Therefore, a group of researchers devised a plan to find those people who could. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the Flash, and the Green Lantern were among 5 super beings that awoke in this universe carrying the likenesses of almost forgotten heroes. When they learned that Terry, a native of Cadmus World, had called them, they made the decision to form a resistance group. Their initial task was to rout a garrison on Flatmist 12. On Takran Galtos, a prison planet, they encountered Locus, a member of the Five who had also abducted Green Lantern, killed the Flash, and abandoned the other 3. They got into a confrontation with the planet's law enforcers after gaining their bearings, and when one of them begged them to assist him in doing so, they learned 2 crucial things. The first is that Takran Galtos was once the planet Earth. The second is that since the Five took over, poets and political agitators have made up the majority of the new inmates. Ariel then opened up to them about the events that led to their arrival. Cloning, as they remembered it, was not possible given the state of technology. Thus, Ariel's proposed solution, which she abandoned in disgust, involved injecting volunteers with the serum that would change them, body and mind, into the heroes needed. The League eventually defeated the Five, but their struggles weren't done. In an effort to defeat the Leaguers, Lois Lane assumed Ariel's body and sent the Leaguers on perilous missions while she assembled the Injustice League. Despite this, the Leaguers continued to exist. Justice League Beyond. Superman and Batman Beyond are among the remarkable cast of heroes that make up Justice League Beyond. The DCAU had a story that was both familiar and original, as well as showcasing renowned DC heroes and comics accurate and fan-favorite takes. A future iteration of the Justice League known as the Justice League Beyond was one of the new characters and teams introduced by the DCAU. Justice League Beyond makes its debut in Batman Beyond Season 3, Episode 8, The Call. An older Superman serves as the team's leader and extends an invitation to Terry McGinnis, Batman. The Justice League Beyond then makes an appearance in Justice League Unlimited and the DC Universe comics. Bruce Wayne's successor as the bearer of the Batman mantle is Terry McGinnis, the star of Batman Beyond. He was secretly nurtured by Amanda Waller to ultimately succeed Bruce Wayne as Batman, making him essentially Bruce Wayne's genetic son. After assisting them with their Starro issue and initially declining active participation, he later adopts a leadership position. The older Kal-El from the DCAU served as the head of Justice League Beyond and also made appearances in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Due to his Kryptonian physiology, he has not aged as quickly as his fellow heroes, although he seems to be in his 40s or 50s. This Superman is just as strong as his younger counterpart, if not stronger. This Justice League included Static, Aquagirl, Micron, Warhawk, Green Lantern, The Flash, Mr. Miracle, Captain Marvel, and Zod in addition to this version of Superman and Batman Beyond. Joker League. The Joker has taken over as the Earth's Emperor and assembled a team of super henchmen. But how had he come to possess such strength? He has always been cunning and evil, yes, but it has never been with the intention of taking over the world. The DC Universe was turned upside down in the 2000s Superman Emperor Joker when the Joker conned the fifth-dimensional imp Mr. Mxyzptlk into granting him a portion of his power, giving him the chance to reshape reality in his likeness. Once Mr. Mxyzptlk gave the Joker his power, he was compelled to experiment with the laws of physics. The Emperor has persuaded even his subjects that 2 + 2 equals fish. In fact, he even succeeded in turning the entire world into a gigantic cube, but that is unimportant. Unfortunately, the Joker established a society in which being insane makes you sane. Metropolis transformed into a bizarre circus of what it once was, with Aquaman unable to swim, Batman being killed every night and then brought back to life, Bizarro being the greatest hero in the world, and Superman being a wanted criminal detained in Arkham Asylum. In this world, instead of being made up of superheroes, the Justice League is the Joker League of Anarchy. A group of new supervillains including Gilly, the Devilish Scorch, Schism, Ignition, and the Gunfighter Bounty were led by Bizarro and Poison Ivy. They carried out the actions of the Joker, who sowed chaos and wreaked havoc everywhere he went. The Justice League of the Joker upheld the law, which was essentially chaos, despite being more ineffective than competent. Shadow Pact. A fictional group of magic-using heroes known as the Shadow Pact fought the Spectre in DC Comics 2005 limited series Day of Vengeance. The wizard Shazam claimed that the word Shadow Pact had been employed repeatedly throughout history by magical organizations that support futile, doomed goals. Enchantress, Ragman, and Detective Chimp formed the group mostly on spur of the moment because they wanted to get rid of the Spectre in order to eliminate all magic from the universe. Blue Devil, Nightshade, and Nightmaster joined them. The latter gives the group the name Shadow Pact. Others that assist the group in their battle with the Spectre include Captain Marvel, the Sorcerer Shazam, and Black Alice, as well as the Phantom Stranger, who provides guidance to Detective Chimp despite being turned into a rodent. But only the team's core 6 members are still there at the end of the limited series. The Phantom Stranger continues to counsel the group after assuming human form once more. Captain Marvel is defeated by the Spectre while attempting to defend the Rock of Eternity. The Spectre also succeeds in eliminating the Sorcerer Shazam. Black Alice, who was present during the last battle on the Rock but chose not to join the group officially, departs to visit her father in Dayton, Ohio, after watching it from a distance with the Shadow Pact. Sometime later, just before Bloodhaven is destroyed, Robin receives help from the Shadow Pact and rounding up metahumans there. They receive assistance from the Warlock's daughter, another magic-using hero during the quest. The Oblivion Bar in Gotham City, a popular spot for mystics with a hidden entrance, serves as the headquarters of Shadow Pact. The bar's owner at the time was Jim Rook. Eddie Deacon, a flipper-armed conjurer, took over during the team's one-year absence. Despite Rook's comeback, Deacon asserts ownership. Just a Lot of Animals. The Just a Lot of Animals, who are zoomorphic copies of the Justice League and dwell on Earth C-, defend their universe with the help of terrible puns. Roger Rodney Rabbit published a comic book called The Just a Lot of Animals on Earth C that parodied traditional Justice League plots. Earth C itself was an alternate dimension instead of a parallel world, thus protecting both worlds from the occurrence of the numerous challenges, so these characters, who were initially nothing more than a story within a story, eventually developed into real people living on Earth C-. Captain Carrot, the alter ego of Roger Rodney Rabbit, created comic books for Wombat Communications. Just a Lot of Animals was one of the comics that were created. Captain Carrot, however, came to the realization that the JLA figures were all real and left Earth C-. He joined them in the battle for a while, but between the end of the comic and their return and countdown, the JLA of Earth C- sued Wombat Communications over the comic book series, effectively barring them from continuing to publish new stories. The only way Captain Carrot could have reached the Just a Lot of Animals during Starro's flooding and destruction of Earth C was to hastily write and sell a JLA issue to Half Track for a nickel. A dimensional gateway was opened, and a lawyer with a cease and desist order arrived. Boa's Ark was ultimately transported to Earth 1 by the Just a Lot of Animals and the new dogs of Earth C-, where the inhabitants of Earth C were transformed into regular animals. During the final crisis, Captain Carrot and the zoo crew were revived, but the Just a Lot of Animals' whereabouts are still unknown. After walking through this list, we got a good glimpse at how our favorite group of superheroes change in certain universes, which was extremely interesting to look at. When it comes to our favorite characters, we have all pondered what they would be like if they were in a different universe, including how they would behave and whether or not they would be on the good or evil side of things. And DC surely delivers. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.